Welcome to round 2 of the Super Open. We're going to have Jeskai Control versus Casualties Ramp. Jeskai Control, piloted by Jonah today, is going to delay the game. You've got 13 counterspells. Eventually, you'll resolve Planeswalkers and finish the game with advantage. Meanwhile, Casualties Ramp is looking to tap out every turn and eventually play Nissa and loop some Time Walks. Here's game 1. Alright, we've got Jonah on the left with the Jeskai strategy and Matt with Casualties Ramp on the right. Jonah's got 3 Dovin's Vetoes in hand to start, along with some lands and Gataxian Probe. Looks like we're starting off the match with a little bit of fun. We've got a smiley face proposed by Matt. Jonah tweaking things up a little bit. Make it a squiggly smile. And it's wholesome that we have some fun here in such a high stakes super open, but that's what our community is all about. So let's see. I think both players are keeping 7s, and Jonah's going to start off with a Mox Jet and a Volcanic Island. Matt playing Mox Emerald into a Gemstone Mine. We've got Paradise Druid turn 1. Jonah, nothing to say about that. So we'll pass the turn over. Jonah's got a Gemstone Mine of their own, and now they're able to hold up those counterspells in hand, including one that can counter non-creature spells with that Supreme Verdict, or sorry, that Supreme Will. Matt tapping 2 for Time Walk. Jonah likely to let this resolve, though with 4 counterspells in hand, it does become tempting to want to use your mana every turn. Something Matt could try to do is get under with a Dark Ritual of some sort. And so Jonah going to spend all their mana on a Supreme Will. Matt kept a 1-lander, but with 2 Dorks and this Emerald. Let's see. 2 mana. Is this another Druid? Ooh, looking at this DT in hand. Instead, we'll Mind Twist for 2. This lets Matt then tap the Druid and another land for DT to find what they really want. Now, Jonah favoring the extra cards here. Matt doesn't follow it up with anything. Bolt to get rid of some mana, as Matt's kind of light, but rips the land anyway and has enough to go for Nissa. But Jonah says no. But now Jonah no longer has any more white mana. And as I say that, I think they just ripped Tundra off the top. But that could have been really troubling with the other vetoes in hand. Get them stranded. And here we're continuing to deny, hoping that a ritual isn't ripped off the top. We've got Veto and Teferi knocked out. This card's not doing too much for Jonah, with a Teferi already in play. We'll just cantrip, hope that we can find some sort of answer. And it looks like we found the 4th Dovin's Veto, which will now countering the tutor. Not super important here if Matt's holding something else in hand. You want to be as efficient as possible by spacing out the counter spells such that you can get the most cards drawn, have the opponent waste as much mana as possible. But it looks like Teferi was what Matt tutored for. This is basically a flag bearer saying you have to counter this. Notably, that Mox Jet really hurting Jonah right in this instance, as they didn't have the ability to go for a counterspell afterwards. Jonah gonna keep drawing cards, gonna keep slowing down the mana production of Matt. And this is right where Jonah wants to be. Counterspells in hand. And here, we're gonna deny as much as we can. This card, I believe, is Time Twister. I'm having a little trouble with it, recognizing the art. Jonah wondering if a bunch of extra cards for Matt is worth enough cards for Jonah. It does mean that since Jonah's used all 4 of their Dovin's vetoes, that they would have the chance to draw those back in hand. Still have more counterspells in hand, but not too much draw has been played this game. Jonah's top deck's likely to be much better because they can Supreme Will to find the card that they want, or can Narset, can Factor Fiction. And here we're seeing it pay off. Banking on the fact that Matt hasn't really had anything great to do this game. Gonna go shields down for a moment to put on the pressure. But right then is the moment when Nissa, who shakes the world, is able to get through. But Sarkhan making a 4/4 really important against Nissa. And we're gonna swing both planeswalkers at the other planeswalker. Tap for 6 and go Casualties of War on your creature, one of your Mox, a land, and probably Sarkhan. And we're back to a top deck war, but now Jonah has significantly fewer resources. Than Matt does. And Jonah has a creature in play. But we can always bounce the Teferi, though that Bolt drawn means that we can get rid of the land. Probably want to do it now in case we rip Casualties off the top again for Matt. And Jonah not feigning any counter spells at this point, knowing that Matt would have to just play into it anyway. And lands drawn for Jonah. Ooh, and a Nissa off the top for Matt. Gets rid of Teferi. And Time Vault not doing too much here. Holding it in hand because if we ever draw Saheeli, then we can cast it after the fact and get 2 extra turns that way. And Factor Fiction isn't going to do it on this board. I don't think there's anything Jonah could draw into that would save them. Unless it was specifically... No, not even Land Saheeli would have worked. Because they wouldn't have enough mana to Time Vault after the fact. But Jonah, thinking in their brain, racking their mind, seeing what they could possibly hit off of this FOF. And players have brought secret tech this week If you cast Foff and reveal something that you would rather your opponent not known about, it could be relevant in a best of 3 scenario. If you get Prison Realm, you can stop Nissa, and then maybe later deal with the creatures. Hope Matt bricks for a couple turns. But we're just gonna pass the turn over right away. Got Nissa targeting the tropical island, making it a dude. After we floated some mana. Factor Fiction for Teferi. Now is the only time you can use it. Thinking about how we tap. Leaving up counterspell mana. But I think at this point, counterspells aren't really going to help you. And there's all the Saheelis. Oh no, tragic. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. But Teferi is live. Unable to make enough mana to replay Anissa, but we'll still draw anyway. Oh, unless we draw exactly what we need. Yeah, we made exactly enough for Teferi. We float 1. We floated another 2. And that's just enough. Yeah, that would have represented so many turns with the triple Saheeli Time Vault. Matt just barely gets there in the nick of time. All right, welcome back to round 2. This is game 2, where Jonah will take the play. It looks like we have a Gemstone Mine, Mox start, but not too many other stable mana sources in hand. Jonah really going to be banking on this veto and hoping that it gets there. Wondering if they need to do something turn 1 or if they can play the Time Vault. They opt to keep the Time Vault in hand. And no land drop. Matt's got to smell blood in the water. And Jonah happy to see another land. Not so amused that it's Gemstone Mine. At this point, Matt knows that they can just keep accumulating their resources as Jonah kind of bleeds out with these counterspells in hand. This would favor Jonah if there were more there was more mana in play. And Jonah, recognizing this, knows that they need to find better mana than this. He's going to fire off Supreme Will. And here we do. I think we select a volcanic island. That way we have a way to tap for all 3 colors of mana without tapping these Gemstone Mines. The Volk plus the Mox Pearl. And now things are looking a little bit better. We can cast Foff next turn. Though, do we really want to spend our Gemstone Mines on that? It's tough. We do have balance in hand now. Ooh, and from the sideboard comes Mana Short. on Jonah's end step, this means that Jonah will either have to counterspell this and feign another counterspell, or they'll have to use their mana now on like Factor Fiction, or if they value keeping those gemstone mines healthy, not do anything at all. Though I feel like you're already behind a little bit. You need to be able to use your mana. If you get a counterspell out here by Matt, you're probably happy to run something else into a potential another counterspell just to make them have it. So it's a risky gambit to counter this if you don't really have anything else to do with the mana anyway. And yeah, we're going to opt for the Factor Fiction line. Time Walk, Veto, Bolt, Bolt, Foff. No lands. We do have another land drop in hand. Alright, so do you value getting rid of things or the counter spells? Yeah. Double Bolt and Veto both represent an answer to Nissa, though one can be done after the fact and leaves a 3/3. The other one is done preemptively, but you have to hold up that mana. And right now is a big window for Matt to resolve something. Oh, and it's just a Time Walk. But if this Time Walks us into another mana source, we have Nissa, then that'll be huge. What also is huge is the Gitaxian Probe, to know exactly what they're up against. Knowing that there's a Prison Realm on the other side makes a Planeswalker much more vulnerable. So I would favor a ritual into Casualties if possible. Leave them stuck on 2 gemstone mines that are about to die anyway. The only problem with that line is that they can sacrifice both gemstone mines and balance, and then both players are back to square one. No lands in play, and Jonah gets the first land drop. But seeing double Dovin's Veto in Matt's hand, we're going to play Teferi. Now this could be baiting out the Prison Realm so that Matt can resolve something bigger later, because it also means that Jonah can't hold up a counterspell after the fact unless they specifically drew a mana source this turn. And if they do have to use the 2 extra mana on a Veto, both of the lands are gone, and Casualties will just be devastating, because you can't respond basically with the balance. Jonah, hoping to hit that extra mana source, is going to Time Walk. Oh, and are we casting balance here? Yeah, looks like we are. We've got 6 cards in hand. Matt's got, looks like 8 or 7. No. Jonah's probably got to get rid of one of these vetoes. And I think Sarkhan as well in hand, because you're not getting to Sarkhan mana anytime soon. Yep. Alright, pass to self. I think that was a Mox. And we just have to get rid of the Teferi here, I think. Alright, and it's a go from Matt. Now Matt's the one with the unstable mana. Only 1 gemstone mine in play. mind, Mox Ruby. Another land means that Jonah could cast Saheeli. Opens up to potential for land, ritual. No, because there's not enough green mana in play from Matt's side. Maybe he doesn't want to get hit with a Teferi after all the work. Now you have double counterspell up. It's just draw go from both sides. Jonah really needing to hit a factor. Speak of the devil and they shall appear. There's a factor fiction. Now, Jonah not gonna need to answer Nissa if one shows up, but gonna hope they don't need to use a counterspell so that they can resolve that draw spell. And here, Matt goes for Tameo, but instantly is putting in the graveyard because they expect a counterspell. Yeah, and I think a regrowth on something with potential for more afterwards is enough. Oh, but we go for, okay, we go for counterspell. We were trying to blind flip and instead we accidentally revealed information. Now this is exactly what Jonah was waiting for. Enough mana to play both sides of the combo at the same time. But we make a servo with the Time Vault and then turn it into a Time Vault with Saheeli. Take an extra turn. Now that we have Factor Fiction, we can Foff and then take another turn. Getting in for damage along the way. And if we reveal another Foff with Saheeli, another Saheeli with Foff, and that represents extra turns. But you also probably don't want to give Foff. Yeah, and this is an insurmountable advantage, and Matt realizes it and packs it up. Go into game 3 between these two juggernauts. All right, game 3 between Casualties Ramp and Jeskai Control. Matt will have the play. It looks like we're keeping 7s. Druid start. Druid start indeed. Jonah without a Mox start means that if Matt has the nuts, they can just really power something out quick. And it looks like they do have a Nissa in hand. Here goes Mana Vault, land drop, Nissa. And yeah, not having the Mox is really rough for Jonah. And it looks like we've got a bolt on the land. We've got counterspell available now. We just gotta hope that we find an answer to Nissa quick. Otherwise, it's pretty dire for us. Here's Mox Pearl, so we're on the right track of having white mana for Prison Realm, but I don't think we have the realm in hand right now. And Naturalize on end step is brutal. This likely in for Time Vault, but right now Stone Rain is the last thing Jonah wants to see. They're debating whether or not they should counterspell this. But if they have to counterspell something else, then Nissa will probably just take the game over anyway. This white mana also represents potential for balance. So yeah, I like counterspell here. The Mana Vault draining Matt's life away, but not at any relevant pace. Chunking in for 8, and Nissa threatening to ultimate already. Another blue land drawn. And unless you have balance here, there's not much to do. And even with balance, you're going down on lands, you're going down on cards. Supreme Will for Gitaxian Probe to see a veto, and yeah, it's game over. Matt takes it in round 2 over Jeskai Control.